What it is, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Beyond the Competitors podcast. I call this one Bucket Talk. So, I have a very special person to the right of me, and he goes by the name of
Randy Flores. How y'all doing?
And for those of you that obviously know me, and don't go too far, you're gonna know who my brother is. So, the biggest thing that I'm trying to get out of this today is for people to understand, like, what it takes and how do you even get to a certain point, although everything could be up against you at times. So I want to start off with our childhood, right? I want to ask you a question. So what was your first memory of baseball?
First memory, how far I gotta go back?
Hey, first thing you remember of us or you, where you was like, yo, this is what I love to do.
I think it was back to when we was, learning how to play on the block, basically.
Yeah.
We used to make the paper balls, tape them up, use everybody in the neighborhood and start playing the games between each other. I think that was probably the first memory, like before actual baseball. And we started playing softball first too.
That is true. So, growing up in a different generation, you realize that it's very different, right? How unique people will figure out ways to spend time with each other. So we grew up luckily with a lot of friends. So we was always outside, always playing, whether it was football, basketball, tag, manhunt, baseball, obviously. And like he's talking about, we used to play in this little, very small area, like a small little parking lot in front of our house. And we would take duct tape, any tape we could with some old newspapers, make a ball, and we would just full-fledged play right in front of the house. We would play with a plastic bat. And those are like easily, I agree, those are like the fondest memories. So I definitely attest to that one. So at what age did you realize, okay, I'm pretty good at this sport?
I would say probably like paper ball. I don't know what age group that is. Maybe like
4, 5 years old?
Nah, it's a little older. Maybe
6?
like 7, 8 years old.
No, it was younger than that.
Younger than that?
Yeah. Because, I'll tell you why. We were 5 years apart. So when I was finally 10 going on 11 is when I officially joined my first organized team. So I started a little bit later than people. So, and I like to believe I made it pretty far considering where we came from. But, we'll get into that. So long story short, you are 4 years old, 5 years old, and we're going to this, what park? How did this park look? Was it like a park with lights and turf?
Nah, it was a multi-purpose cement field.
Straight up. So
cement field, that's what we played on.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. And then we everybody, you remember, we used to go, I'll name drop some people. Everybody lived on my block. Josue, Brandon, Jason. Who else used to play with us? Because a lot of people moved out around that time. I mean, they're not there no more, but.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It was a lot of those core guys that we
just
still
everybody
close to.
around our block. Everybody, we all grew up, we loved baseball, and we found any way to, just get outside the house and play. And I feel like those are the best memories, honestly, before we even picked up a baseball.
That is real.
Showed us the competitiveness. We were all competitive with each other. We all want to be better than each other, but we also helped each other get better. We found any way we can to play baseball. So.
That is very true. So, I mean, and I'm an older brother, like I said, right? Obviously, I'm 5 years ahead. And when I was going and experiencing and learning things, immediately I'm running to him to be like, yo, this is what we're going to do, right? This is what I learned. This is what I figured out. Even when I didn't understand, most of the time what I was doing, but I just understood what it felt like and what I was trying to explain. And I'm fortunate that my brother was able to kind of pick up on those things. Not just because I said them, but also through his own experience. So remember, we used to play and it'd be guys, it was all ages. It wasn't like it was, oh, you're 6 to 8, you're going to play the next game. It was like, yo, you're 6 years old, you're going to play with 11 and 12-year-olds today. You're going to play with the 14 and 15-year-olds, and we just play ball, yo. And I think that was the biggest point to both of us getting to where we're at today. And I say this because you were found in that park, right? Someone was walking home from work and watched us practice in drizzled rain. Park is all wet, but we just wanted to be outside. And we're sitting here, we're getting ground balls, we're doing all these different things, and this guy walks by and is like, how old is he? And he's pointing at my brother. He's like 4 or 5 years old at the time. My brother had hands, he could throw, he could hit. So the guy was like, I would really love for him to play on my team. And that's how the journey started. You're 5 years old, 5 years old, going on 5. I'm going on 10, 11 years old. And that's when it originally started, right? So this is where organized baseball comes in, and you start realizing, all right, hold on, like this is a whole different world. So obviously, I don't want to skim through because obviously, playing baseball with all these different teams from like 5, 6 years old all the way till you get to high school. But I do want to highlight the importance of fighting through adversity. So my brother, right, at 6, 7 years old, to say the least, was advanced compared to other kids, but he didn't have the size, right? Which is, we tend to learn that as we got older, it was still a topic of conversation when it was to play at the next level. But, we kind of figured out a way to make it an edge, as I like to say. Now, can you tell us about a time where you are 11, 12 years old? What was your thought process?
At 11, 12, honestly, at that point in my baseball career, it's still early, but now I'm starting to go like to the tournaments, Domination, Baseball Heaven, Perfect Game, all that stuff. But I mean, at that age, honestly, I think it was good that we grew up with the competitive nature. So when I got to play with other kids in the Northeast that were my age, I wasn't like, oh, wow, like I'm playing against this kid. He goes to this school. It was more like I belong here, and I feel like I belong here, and I'm going to prove that. So every time I went to those tournaments, I made sure I did my thing, but my teammates also helped me become better as well, because if he got a hit, I want to go get a double. And it would be vice versa. If I got a double, the next time I want to hit a triple. But, it was a good core, good kids that we all had, so we all push each other, help each other get better. So I think around 11, 12 was when it was really like, I know I could do this. Because that's when I started playing against, certain guys in the Northeast. And I'm like, okay, these guys have some name before we even get to high school. But around my age, when it was like 11, 12, baseball was just different. I don't know how to explain it. Like compared to what it is now, I don't know. Like around that age, kids were just different. Everybody was good. It was already kids before the rankings and stuff. Like before it even existed, everybody knew of you because you were good. You know what I'm trying to say? It was like, you don't look at a ranking. It was just like, I heard of this kid. He plays for the... Example, like a kid from Jersey playing for a Tri-State Arsenal team. Like when I was growing up, when I was 12, I remember, I don't quote me on this, but I remember, I think it was some team, I forgot the name of them, but all I know is Volpe was a big kid that played on a certain team at the tournaments I used to go to. Because he's from the Northeast, he's from Jersey.
Yeah.
So he played on a Jersey team, and I used to be at the same tournament as he was.
Was that the Diamond Jacks or something like that?
Nah, because that's from Domination. Okay. I don't know if it was a Diamond Jack. It was like a made travel all-star team. Gotcha. But we were also one of those teams too when I was with the Hurricanes.
Gotcha. So do you feel like travel ball was something, because obviously it turned into the beast it is now, was a whole different world.
It's different now.
Like, because I could give you difference in experiences. Like when I was growing up, we really wasn't like traveling as much. It was more recreational baseball. But everyone that lived in the neighborhood was good. Everyone had some talent. Whether the guys were down here or up here, we were all challenging each other. So we would go play in these parks like Central and like Knickerbocker Park, and we was going at each other's necks because we understood like, yo, this is like, you're not better than me, I'm better than you. And that ultimately evolved, right? I'll give you a little bit of background on myself and how it ties into him getting into travel ball. When I was about 13, going on 14, after playing these X amount of, games, like, recreational baseball, like, for Quebradillas baseball, for those of you that live in Brooklyn would know that. Some of you that... Lindsay was another one. That's where we originally started. So my brother started with the White Sox, and I started with a team called the Hurricanes. And obviously, my brother's 5 years apart from me. So when I'm 11, he's 5, 6 years old. When I got to 13, 14 is when I really started picking it up a notch. I'm just, from my experience. And then I brought him alongside with me. So it was kind of cool to see how things transpired 10, 15 years later where we're having these kind of conversations. But at that time, we didn't have like set coaches that were able to understand and process the game or played at a high level that were able to explain it to us. It was more of a like, hey, that looks like it works, let me try it. Hey, let me do this, let me do that. Watching the major leaguers. I remember being told at 14, and I don't know if you remember these days, being 13, 14, they were like, yo, if you want to throw harder, you have to run a lot. So in my head, I'm like, I gotta go run. So I would go run in Bushwick Park. For those of you that live in Bushwick will know, and it'd be 8, 9 o'clock at night. And me and my brother are running miles in the park. And again, I'm 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, around that range, because I did it, for years. And I will bring them with me. I would do I'll get my extra swings. He's getting his extra swings. We working out. I'm working out. He working out. And again, we didn't have all the plethora of information you get now, but at least we had an understanding, right? Using Google, internet was around. I would try to learn as much as possible, right? To not only learn for myself, but be able to explain it to the guys around me, including my brother. So
even just getting reps, that's what really mattered. We found any way to get reps, whether it was hitting off the tee with 6 balls in a bucket. We hit as close as we can to the fence and just take 6 swings, pick them back up. 6 swings, pick them back up. Running, long toss, and throwing. Any way we could, any way that we can get reps, we did it, and we found a way to do it. So there was never an excuse.
And I think that's the beauty of New York baseball, is the beauty of coming out from where we come from. We didn't have the limelight. We didn't have the big, beautiful fields with lights, right? It was rare that you found a park with lights. I think the only park that I can remember that had lights was that park in LES, right? Those when you cross over that Williamsburg Bridge.
FDR.
The FDR, you will see that park. I can tell you how many times I rode my bike over there at 12, 13 years old to go play a game, a pickup game, right? Because to me, it was like, yo, this is what I want to do, and I'll do whatever it takes. Sometimes you got to be a madman to get what you want. And I think that's what this generation is missing, right? We're so worried about what people are seeing, what they like, what they don't like, with the rankings and where I'm playing at. We're very worried about what other people view of us as. When the reality is, put your nose down and get to work, right? So, and this is a living example. So now I'm gonna fast forward a bit, right? We went around the 11, 12-year-old range. Now let's talk about going to high school. So remember, this is when I went through my big change, right? We're 5 years apart. I'm going to college. I'm there at 13, 14 years old. I go to Grand Street campus, for those of you that don't know. This is when I was really exposed to a lot of the different things out there. I didn't know that baseball or high school baseball was as big as it was. And ironically, the same way my brother was found to go play right at 4 or 5 years old with the White Sox, I was found in that same park playing right with my friends, hitting softballs into someone's living room across the street, right? With no coach, no hitting instructor. It was just, we out here for the love of the game. And a specific person, right? Shout out to John Rodriguez. He was walking by, going home from work every day. And he so happened to see me playing with these guys, right? He asked my age. And I had told him that, because I was originally supposed to go to Bushwick High School. So I didn't know much about high school ball. It was just like, I had heard all these crazy things, but I didn't really have the guidance where someone could sit me down and be like, this is what you're gonna do. But by the faith of God, in my opinion, he just so happened to be walking by this day, sees me hit a ball, right? Perfect timing. Like I think about this all the time. If he would have left his job maybe a minute or maybe 2 minutes after, he would have never seen me take that swing that ultimately led me to the position I am today. So it just goes to show that you just never know who's watching, one, and how important it is to go out there and do what you got to do the right way, no matter who's watching. And this guy ends up seeing me. He tells me, "Hey, you're gonna go to Grand Street." I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall. I talked to my parents. My mom was like, "No, you're not going there. It's too far." I wasn't hearing that because something inside me was like, "This is what I need to do." And I'll fast forward. I had a great high school career. I ended up being the first team to win our championship my junior year of high school, made the last catch. And we ended up winning it for Melvin Martinez. Shout out to Melvin Martinez, Steve Martinez, Caballito, all you guys that were a big part in not only my growth, right, and my development, but also helping out my brother when I was able to go away to college. But I remember my senior year trying to figure out, what's next in life. I hear this idea of college. And again, I don't have people that could really help me out to get to that point. But it was very, very big to me to know that no matter the circumstances and what was going on around me, it was like, yo, this is it. I know this is what I want to do, and this is what I need to do. All right, so that's pretty much, my kind of take going in. I want to highlight one specific thing, right? We're obviously in his gym right now, but do you remember the first time we met CJ? I can remember like it was yesterday, but I want you to explain your version and I'll explain mine.
I know I was young. For the time I do remember me and CJ was when you guys used to have the Grace practices, and we used to have to go to Red Hook, and then we was doing the field workouts. I don't really remember like the first interaction because I was young, so I was like kind of just, whenever I came around, I was just quiet. I just did what I had to do. You
were 9 years old at the time, and I was 14 going on 15. 5 year difference.
Yeah.
So my question is, how different was it, right, after being with me your entire life, then one day I'm gone. And now you're going into high school, which is a very big step. How was that for you?
Honestly, it was different. But the good thing was that even though we were 5 years apart, you graduated 2013.
Yes.
So some people that I went into high school with still knew you, and when you were there, they were the youngins.
Gotcha.
So when I got there, they was like, "Oh, this is Calvin's brother." So they kind of took me under the wing. You get what I'm trying to say? So that kind of helped me out when I was a freshman in high school. But it was a big jump. That was the first time I was ever taking the train to school. Just like little like life stuff, taking the train. You know, like being, I guess, by myself for a little bit. You know, just trying to learn things. But overall, though, I think that's what really helped me. You get what I'm trying to say? Just being around people that I knew already, instead of going to like a new place where it's like I don't know nobody and I'm trying to figure this out on my own. You know what I'm trying to say? That there was help for sure.
I find that quite interesting because I've always been the one to pave the road. I was the first one to go there. I didn't know anyone at Grand Street. And when I grew up, Grand Street at the time, I'm not going to say it was the best of Catholic schools or public schools, right? It was a inner city school, right? You're going to have your great kids. You're going to have your kids that were up to no good. You had guys that had to pick a side of the road, and some guys chose early, other guys chose late. But I knew that it was more to me than just being in a position to kind of do what was right for the moment. It was like, I might not know where I'm going, but you're damn sure that I'm going to make sure I make the right decisions. I'm going to learn in the process, but I'm going to make the right decisions and make the best out of what I have. And it goes to show, again, right? I built a reputation for myself. 2013, right? I just win the championship that previous year. I come in, had some of a buzz, right? Being one of the bigger guys, playing first base at the time. I kind of started making a choice. I went from being 155 pounds as a freshman and grinded my behind to end up being around 220 pounds as a senior. And that was a lot of two-a-days, eating like I had no business. And, just making sure that I did whatever I could, because I had people like CJ, right, that were constantly reminding me, bro, you're not that good. Get it figured out. And I needed that at 14, 15 years old. I needed people like CJ to come, right, from Miami, coming with the background that he does, right, in baseball and his family. It was just like, wow, like, again, another realization. I think I'm that good. I think I'm putting in work. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. And again, you got to be a little bit crazy sometimes to chase your dreams. If you don't, guess what? You got to believe in it before everyone else does. It might not work out for you, especially considering a numbers game that is against you. All right, so I'll fast forward again. I go to college. I'll save that for another time, right? Explaining my whole crazy story of college and the colleges I went to and traveling over the country. I really want to focus on you finally trying to get to college. So you have an amazing junior and senior year. I think every year my brother did a great job. You can go look at the numbers. You still hold the stolen base record in New York City, for those of you that don't know. And you're a senior and people around you going to college and you feel like, am I there yet? Like, am I getting the opportunity? How did that feel to you at that point in time where you're looking around and these guys you played with playing at the next level or getting scholarships and you still waiting?
For me, honestly, it was a little tough because my sophomore year, I think I was ranked. That's when the ranking started to come into place. I was top 5 in New York as a sophomore, top 5 player. But at that time, I went on one D1 visit at that time. But I was like, okay, if I'm getting these looks now, I'm gonna wait till senior year comes around. I went on a visit to the school. Do what we had to do, and then fast forward, like you said, junior, senior year comes around, and then this is when the reality hits about, getting your grades right. And this is something that's always been stressed to me, and I understand you could kind of be in a bubble living in New York City. You get stuck in the bubble where it's like, I'm doing good here. I'm not really thinking about the future as much. Like, you think about it, but it's like so far-sighted that you just like, I'm just worried about what I got going on over here. And I kind of got caught up in that, and I was like, I'm passing my classes. I got an 80 average. I'm good. I'm not thinking too much of it. I'm like, somebody's gonna get me just because of my baseball talent. That's what I didn't always think that, but I was like, all right, that was kind of in the back of my head. And fast forward, I kind of put myself in a tough situation because now I know it's not the talent that's not letting me go to the school that I want to go to. It's my grades. You get what I'm trying to say? So at this point, I already know it's like, it sucks to see people I play with, they go into these top D1s, you get what I'm trying to say? And I'm like, damn, like I was playing with these guys. I was outperforming some of these guys. Not saying I'm better, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, just the competitive
the right
nature.
day, the right time, things work
So I'm
out.
saying competitive nature, and it's like, I should also be there too. You know what I mean? Not like from a standpoint where I'm like, damn, you there, I should be there, taking your spot. It's just like, you there, I'm happy for you. And I feel like I made bad decisions. You got me? You stuck to the right decisions, and I made bad decisions. And that's kind of how my process went. So I was kind of stuck between go JUCO or go D2. And at that time, I felt like the D2 was the best option for me. I personally didn't feel like JUCO was the best option for me at that time because I was young. I was still 17 when I would have went into JUCO. So it was just like, I don't know. This, like, you always hear this, they're stereotypical about JUCOs. Like, you get this 20, 21-year-old guys there. You know what I'm trying to say? But then when you get in college, it starts to make sense. When you go through the experience, like, you know what? Maybe that would have not been a bad option. But I don't regret any options that I made, though. I don't regret going D2 because that also gave me a time to develop. Like, I was able to pick the school that was close to my family, close to home. If I needed to go back home, I had a chance to do so. Never came back home because there was amenities there that I feel like I can use and to get better. But that was my perspective on it. Go somewhere where I could develop and then think about the future.
Yeah, and I'm happy you kind of bring that up. I want to kind of touch back on the grades part. So now remember, I'm like, there's a big there's woods everywhere, there's trees everywhere, and here I am coming with this bulldozer. All right, the first one in the family, first one in the generation to say I'm going to go to college. First one to say I'm going to go away to college, and the first one to get full scholarships to go play a sport. So it was very difficult for me to have conversations with, family members and people around me because they didn't really understand what I was going through. And even around me, it was tough to go talk to certain people, like, friends, and like they weren't getting the opportunities that I were considering. Excuse me, considering how this all plays out. So I think it was a good thing that, again, I got put in a situation where I had to kind of figure things out, and I was paving the way. And as I was paving the way, right, and I'm knocking down all these trees, now there's a dirt path. I'm looking back and I'm like telling my brother, like, yo, make sure you have your grades right. Make sure you have this, make sure you have that. Because again, as a big brother, my job was to make sure I teach you, right, what's right and what's wrong. And sure enough, right, the way life works, you either do it like you said, make the right decisions, or you don't, and then now you have to deal with the consequences of those. So can you explain what ended up happening that freshman year? You come in, you're thinking, yo, I'm the guy, I got a full ride, right? And shout out to everyone that was a part of that decision. I appreciate the fact that, out of all these opportunities that were put out there, at some point, like you said, it felt like there was nothing there. And, people really came through and helped out my brother. So I'll forever appreciate that. And so you go to, you're a freshman in college, and what happens?
So, like I said, I kind of went through the whole, senior year, whatever. I got 80 average, I'm good. And then I get accepted into the school, everything works out, scholarship hits through. So now I'm like, okay, everything is good.
Yeah.
I kind of ran away from the past a little bit. So at least I thought. So I wound up, going through fall ball, have a really good fall ball, supposed to be starting as a freshman in college. And I remember specifically, it was after one of our fall games, coach calls me into the office, and then he's like, oh, go check with the something's wrong with your NCAA clearinghouse. And I was like, what do you mean something's wrong with my NCAA clearinghouse? He's like, I don't know, there might be a typo there. So go talk to, I think your counselor, or not the counselor, I forgot the person's name, the people who handle the eligibility, academic advisor, I guess.
Yeah.
I know they have a different name in college.
Yeah, it's the same idea. The person that you go to when you get to college is going to overlook your transcripts, your schedules, make sure that you're getting the credits you need to graduate.
So I wind up going to her after my coach tells me to go have a talk with her. And she sits me down and she tells me, she's like, there was a new rule that year that you had to have a main GPA of 2.2. And I come to find out that I had a 2.1. The year before that, all you needed was a 2.0 to be eligible. So now I'm getting hit with the hard truth, and I'm kind of like, damn. everything is starting to hit me now. It's like, if I would have just did my homework, if I would have just, tried a little harder on this test instead of just being like, I got the passing grade, I'm good.
And remember, you had the 80 average, but what got you was the core classes. And core classes, right? Those core subjects, the math, the ELA, the writing, right? The language, the science, the history, all these classes, those core classes are what really is going to transfer over when you're trying to get a college scholarship or even getting in. That's the reality here. So it's not the gym, it's not the introduction to paper cutting that you're gonna take, right? It's not, none of those classes mean nothing. They just fluff your GPA. So pay close attention, right? And be attentive. You talk about baseball being what you wanna do in life and you wanna make it to the next level, you better be really close to your counselor, right? So that, or your academic advisor when you get to college, to make sure that your credits or the classes you need and the tests are all checked off, right? So that you don't get caught in the way of situations like my brother. So I'll give you an example. I was a kid, right, that in high school, I was, same thing. I came in with a 90 average, right? I had glasses, very dorky looking kid, right? I'll say it. And my first semester in high school, I had like a 92 average. To me, it was a breeze, right? It's easy. Then I took off the glasses, right? I started getting haircuts more frequently. I'm a little bit taller for my age, and this is where the girls start asking, who's that? Who's this? And I went kind of down that path, right? Being 13, 14 years old, and trying to figure out the personal side of life. And I also had many experiences in that sense where it was like, I had to kind of snap myself out of it, right? It could have easily been a distraction, but I didn't let it be a distraction because I still had my goal. But I'm just saying all of this for you guys to understand that it's okay to make those mistakes. You're going to make them when you're young. Make them while you're young. The older you get, the more expensive, right, or cost time that your mistakes come out to be. So make sure that you learn from different experiences. Listen to when someone's telling you stuff, because I'm telling you now from experience, those people are telling you that for a reason. It's not because they want to get under your skin. And honestly, if they're on top of you, it's because they care. That's my opinion. You could understand that, right? So now let's fast forward a bit, right? You're going into COVID time. So can you explain what happened during COVID? Good.
Okay, so just to backtrack to finish off, freshman year, wanted to find out I'm ineligible, so now I take a red shirt. I took a academic red shirt. I was still able to practice with the team, but I couldn't travel no away games. And I can only be there for home games and I can only practice. So that was a tough time for me mentally, because I'm like, damn, I put in all this work and I was just so close. I was about to be starting and then the pass snatched right from me. So it was tough to deal with. I'm not gonna lie. First time being away, we was away for all this time. You came back, I left. First time being away, meeting new people. So that was tough. And then let's fast forward, that freshman year, since I didn't play, I went to go play summer ball in the Perfect Game League, the Perfect Game Collegiate League. And that's what kind of opened up my eyes, like really. I went to that league and I struggled. It took me a while to get, my feet under me, because I didn't play a season. I didn't see live pitching as much as I wanted to. So when I got there and I was like, all right, now I'm really far away from home. This is different. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's what kind of lit the fire under my I was like, all right, I got to get on my because these kids I'm not seeing kids just in my conference. I'm seeing kids all over. No matter whether they're D1, D2, JUCO. If you're in college and you get the opportunity to play college baseball, you're most likely good. You know what I'm trying to say? So it doesn't matter about the names.
That's real.
So fast forward, sophomore year comes, same thing, have a great fall, wind up earning my spot again. I started doing what I had to do in the classroom, obviously in college, so got my GPA up pretty good. And then I remember specifically the season. So fast forward now to the season. Good fall happens. I come home, come train. I'm here. CJ's training, training with my brother. And then get back to school after that winter break. And I remember specifically, we go to that Myrtle Beach trip. That's where we used to go for our spring training. We'll go down to Myrtle, play a couple D2s that are in our conference down there.
Yeah.
We go through the week. We play 4 or 5 games. And then we drove right back up to school. So we would go to Myrtle Beach, drive up back to school, and then drive back down to Cary, the USA complex, play a couple games there, go back and then start a season. So I remember after the Myrtle Beach trip, we went back to school, and I remember like as light as day. Coach texts us, I think in the group me, and he's like, "Snoo just shut down." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because at this point, that was the first Corona cases was coming around. And it was like believable, but not believable.
Yeah.
And then the one school shuts down, and it's like, it's not that serious. Maybe it's just that school. And then they started dropping like flies. And I remember specifically, first school in New Hampshire was Southern New Hampshire University. If any of you guys know that school, they shut down. And then I was like, oh, this is getting real.
Yeah.
And then our coach is like, oh, nah, just stay. Like, we're going to be fine. Just stay in your rooms. Everything is going to be good. Just don't panic, whatever. Literally an hour later, he's like, all right, school made a decision. We sent everybody home for a week.
For a week.
For a week. That's what they told us. And now I'm like, oh, what's going on? Like, this is getting kind of serious now. So, pack up our stuff, go back home. As the week is finishing, now more schools are dropping. Now it's starting to become like kind of like
There's a national
northeast wide. You get what I'm trying to say? Like now it's like, okay, I thought it was just schools in New England area. Now it's like New York schools are starting to shut down, PA schools. And I'm like, oh, this is getting kind of real now.
Yeah.
And then eventually after that 1 week waiting, they tell us schools canceled, no more coming back. And then that's when the coronavirus hit for real. And then we started the quarantine. And I feel like, honestly, I don't know how people use their time during quarantine. We broke a few rules, but if it wasn't for that quarantine time, I don't know if I'll be where I'm at right now, to be honest. Shout out to Melsky.
Yeah, shout out to Melsky big time.
Alex and Chris too.
Hell yeah. So it's funny because during this time I would have these conversations, right? So remember, I'm digging this path, right? I'm knocking all these woods down. There's a dirt path. I am now starting to put concrete down so that anyone that comes from before me can get through even faster, right? I'll put in directions up. Hey, this is what's gonna happen. This is what you're doing. So at this point in time, I already finished my college career. All right, I got a year or two. This is where the other side of life, right, kind of kicks you behind, because when you do something for so long, for years of your life, and then now you get thrown into the real world, it could be definitely a mental challenge. I've always prided myself in being mentally strong, but I was not always the person I am today. I had to go through certain experiences to become the form of me today. So during COVID, I already had a premonition or understanding. I'm like, look, COVID hits. We don't know how bad it is. Everyone's sick. You see the news. The news is putting all these crazy things up. And again, it's very easy to see that and say, oh my goodness, like this is wild, right? First thing I think of is, first, is my family safe? And two, what are you doing? What's going on? Because if I got to drive to go get you, I'm going to go do that. If I got to figure things out, that's the most important thing. We're like, let's figure it out as we go. And COVID time was when I learned just how bad, right, certain people wanted it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't clear before, but it was a thing where it was like, when the world is shutting down and everyone around you is terrified to go even breathe outside, we were outside long tossing. We were outside running. We were outside getting to points where it was, let's figure out a way to hit. Let's figure out a way to get ground balls. And ultimately, we kind of built a little community within each other. It wasn't like random people were with us, right? No one was outside. But this was our way of saying we're willing to take the risk for the reward. While we knew the world was shut down, we knew there was no one outside. We knew that everyone was taking the same exact route. Let me just sit down and I'll just wait and see what's up. We were out there working. We knew that in order to beat that kid that's in Cali that won in your spot, or that kid that's down in Texas, we knew this is what it takes, right? And it was always obviously me, again, putting the concrete down, this road that I'm building, right? And I'm starting to bring everyone with me. It was what I always tell you, the same thing, right? Work when everyone else is sleeping. Let's figure out a way to get that work in. Let's get better. Let's get faster. Let's get stronger 1% a day. And at some point, right, when you put 100% effort in on something, and if it doesn't work out, at least you can go to sleep, right? Put that head on that pillow and be comfortable and confident that you put everything in it, right? The worst feeling is to not do that. And then when things don't work out, think of what if. So, okay, so now COVID hits, you're back home. We are working out, right? We're busting our behind. A year goes by, craziness in COVID. You find out you get your year back, right? And then now everything is clear. We're going back to school. Can you take off there? What happened then?
So now this is junior year in the
Yes.
classroom, freshman on the field. At that point, after that quarantine and that grinding, that all that stuff that we did, at that point, I was kind of rushing myself because the goal was to always go pro. I mean, if you love baseball, I feel like that's been everybody's goal. That's what you work for. So the goal was always to go pro, and I knew at that time it was like, okay, I'm a junior. I don't have a full season under my belt yet. Like, I don't, the misconception.
Yes.
I don't want to fall into the misconception. Like, oh, what happened with, why didn't he play all this time? Whatever. So now, going into junior year, I kind of mentally, I put myself like on a clock. I was like, if I made a set goal list, and I was like, I'm going to do what I got to do now, and that's going to lead me to the future that I want. So I just basically told myself, I was like, if you want to really chase this dream, you better go do what you got to do this season. Have fun while you're doing it, but you have to put the work in, and I got to do what I have to do.
Can you explain some of the sacrifices it took to get to even to get to that point? Because we don't realize at times the things we put to the side until you get older and you look back and realize there was no family vacations, there was no quick trips, right? Sacrificing buying the newest fashion things because we wanted to put that money towards baseball, right? And like, I just want to hear your insight to it. So what are the kind of sacrifices you went through, especially, right? Not even talking about high school, let's talk about college. You're at that point, you're away. What are some of the sacrifices you feel like you had to make to get to where you are today?
Honestly, I feel like just being away from you guys, just from family. I feel like you guys took care of me enough to have everything I needed. I had food, I had a roof over my head.
Yeah.
That's all I really needed.
That's real.
That's all I really needed. I just needed that, and I made the promise here. You get me? I was gonna do what I had to do.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. And obviously you meet people down the way. If you're a good person, you attract good people. So there's a lot of people that helped me out on my journey too. All my friends that gave me rides. I thank all of y'all. Wouldn't be here without you guys, for real. Not to point one out, like all the names specifically, but in every school, I've had guys, that helped me when they didn't have to help me. So grateful for that.
Oh yeah. And I'm glad that you highlighted that because everyone don't realize it takes a community. There's not a single thing that moves the earth or moves the world that was not done with a team. And you need people you can trust, you need people that you can confide in, and you need, most importantly, people that believe in you, right? Because it's very easy to be at a point in your life where it's like, this might not work for me. And you look around and everyone's telling you the same thing. Very easy to say, you know what, I'm just gonna walk away. And again, a big shout out as an older brother to those guys. I met most of you guys. I've drove to every corner of the United States to go watch my brother play, right? At whatever time I had, because I understood from day one, all right, we got all these things, right? We got all this stuff in front of us, but I'll tell you this, we're gonna figure this one out. And we're gonna do this the right way and we're gonna make it.